I redlined it off the forecourt. I'm John. I live in Raunds, Northamptonshire. I run a small company called Cleansworks. So we sell detailing stuff for cars, motorbikes and such like. I also run this YouTube channel that you're watching right now. I was born in St Albans. I lived there for about 22 years, then moved out and spent probably 10 years renting in various places all over Herts, Beds and Bucks. Pretty much anywhere I could afford, because you know what renting's like, it's not the cheapest thing. So I kind of floated around for 10 years, just doing various sales jobs and things like that. And before finally settling in Raunds and setting up Cleansworks and doing my own thing. I passed my test in 2002, November 2002. So I would have been just coming up to about 18. I can remember exactly what got me into cars. It's funny actually, when I was a lot younger, my dad and older brother used to watch motorsport and car videos and such like. I hated it, I hated every moment, I couldn't stand it. But then when I went to secondary school, in the first year, a friend of mine brought a magazine in called Max Power. As a very young 13-year-old, Max Power was a fantastic proposition back in 1996. I just got hooked on the cars pretty much instantly, seeing, of course, 90s Max Power cars, just absolute insanity. I think it was then, or maybe the year before, I can't remember exactly, but I was lucky enough to get a PlayStation 1 for Christmas, which had the original Gran Turismo series on it. But what you had with Gran Turismo is an introduction to a whole world of cars that you never knew existed, because of course you've got to remember there was no social media at this point, just whatever you saw on TV, magazines and such like. And certainly in the UK, RX-7s, Skylines, Chasers and all of that, they didn't exist. Nobody knew what they were until this game came out, and then literally overnight you've learned of all of these Impreza variants, as I say, all of these Skylines. And I remember collecting in the game pretty much every Skyline model, every Impreza, or making a point. Hell, I'd even get every colour of every model. And I just had this garage full of nothing but JDM cars and stuff that at the time I thought, well, I'm never going to have that. My first car was a VW Polo Mark II, 1989, 45 horsepower, 4-speed, 5 if you include reverse, obviously. As a first car, you thrash the tits off it, don't you? And we certainly did. Crashed that, so replaced it with a 1989 Mark II Polo, 1 litre with 45 horsepower. Then, yeah, messed around with those for a little while. Then took quite a steep jump and picked up an EP3 Civic Type R. It's the only brand new car I've ever had. I got that from the showroom. I redlined it off the forecourt. I would have been 19 at the time that I got that. The job I had at the time was paying rather well. I was in a position to get it. It was really good fun. Crashed that, but it was okay. That got repaired, so it's back on the road, so no dramas there, insurance payout and stuff like that. And I think I had it a year and a half before sadly losing the job that was paying all right, just through being young and stupid, quite frankly. So they repossessed it, as simple as that. They took it away, which, of course, you're going to regret those sort of things for most of your life, aren't you? I mean, I'm a bit older and wiser now, and you kind of realise that taking finance out on expensive cars when you're that sort of age, yeah, it didn't really work out so well for me, unfortunately. So following that, I mean, I had a break from cars. I hit rock bottom. I didn't have any money. I couldn't afford to get another car, so I ended up on a BMX. That's how I used to get around. I was a lot slimmer then, obviously. Then I think I moved on to E30 Beamers. I'm trying to remember which way round it all was, but I had an E30 320. So the 6-cylinder, but the old school, you know, really nice classic looking ones. They're worth a fortune nowadays. I regret selling it. I had 2 of them. I regret selling both. First one, 320, that did fine until I crashed it. So that went for scrap value, which I really shouldn't have done, but hey, that went. Replaced that with a 318, so the 4-cylinder, which I have to say I preferred. It handled a lot better. It didn't have a really heavy engine at the front, and to be honest, there wasn't much of a power difference. So that was a fantastic car. I had the 15-inch BBS rims on it. It was in black, so pretty much, you know, the E30 that you'd want, certainly visually anyway. I didn't crash that. I sold that for more than I paid for it. So that went to be replaced with a Fiesta Ghia 1.6. For the pure simple reason the car was gifted to me. It was at the time a lot newer, a lot more reliable. I could get to and from work, and to be fair, the 1.6 engine, the Z-Tech engine, is not too bad. It's sprightly enough to have some fun with. So yeah, so the E30 went to be replaced with a Fiesta. I shouldn't have done that, but hey. And then I crashed the Fiesta. Then that was replaced with an E36 318 Ti, so the E36 compact. I bought that from Dave in Luton for a handful of hundreds of pounds, and it was just about passable. It really wasn't the cleanest example, but it cost me a matter of hundreds. And then someone crashed into me with that, writing it off. When it came to the insurance payout for that, he did accept fault and everything else. I just said to him, look, I just want market value for the car. And then that's it, happy days, I can go and replace it. What I didn't realise is what I'd bought for a few £100s on the second-hand market was worth substantially more. So I managed to get a payout for, well, effectively more than what I bought the car for, so I'm kind of quids in at this point. So I spent as little as I could on a Subaru Impreza Turbo 2000, which is a UK spec Impreza. But it had the ProDrive Performance Pack on it, so a little bit more power, just a bit of a remap and a few exhaust changes. I loved that car. It was really good. I really rate those classic Imprezas. 16-inch wheels on it, so it's got a bit more tyre. Down the back roads, you can hammer it and have no issues at all. Comedy turbo lag, obviously a woeful interior, but it's Japanese, so that's fine. A really good proposition. They're getting a bit pricey now, and that's assuming you can find one without rust. I sold mine for not much less than I paid for it, but it had a hell of a lot more rust on it. But I think the car's still on the road. I think whoever bought it did the work, and it continues to run now, which is great. That was replaced by another Impreza, but this time a later wide track STI, so 2005. It had a few modifications on it. I didn't do any of it. I literally bought it as everything done. It was about 330 horsepower, had all the exhaust modifications that you want. It sounded epic, and it went really well indeed. A bit of a better interior, still pretty much Japanese, but certainly better than the classic. But it didn't quite gel with me as much as the classic shape Impreza did for some reason. I loved it, but I did find eventually I don't want to say I got bored with it, but I got bored with it. And of course, where do you go from there? Well, ultimate Jap car's always been the Skyline. It was, for me, always a car I wanted. Since I can remember even getting into cars, it was all about the Skylines. Made that switch, 5 years later, still rocking a Skyline. The car itself is an R34 GTT, rear-wheel drive. You don't get any four-wheel drive or anything like that. It's a lot more analog, if you will, compared to a GTR. It's got the RB25 engine, the Neo version, which means it's got some variable valve timing as well. They run around 275, 280 horsepower from factory, although this one we've tuned it slightly. Still on the stock turbo and injectors, but we're running about 350 horsepower, which is not too bad at all. It's about as far as you can go really with the stock turbo and injectors. Any more than that, you're going to want to replace those bits. It's a really good driving car. Everything from a driver's perspective just seems to be spot on. Seating position's great, where the pedals are awesome. The steering is very precise. And of course it's a Skyline, isn't it? So you you can't help but go around getting noticed, and you get a lot of conversations from people. The negative side is they're old now. We have to be realistic here. They're pretty much like running a classic car almost. Parts availability is not impossible, but not quick. And a lot of the time you can find a host of second-hand parts, but they're unreliable. It's a constant maintenance game with a car like this. If you want to drive it and use it properly, it's constant oil changes, timing belts, and making sure everything is as it should be. You've got to stay on top of all of the rust, because Japanese car, it's just going to disintegrate. It's done over 170,000 miles now, which is quite a lot, but I like to drive the car. I don't see the point in owning a car unless you're going to drive it. It's not a garage queen or a show car. And considering the high mileage, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, there may be a few things. The car's done 170 odd thousand miles now, still on the original engine, has never been opened. So I have no idea what it looks like inside, but until it stops running, it's fine.